Scott, you'll join Daniel Levitt, talk to him. And he wrote an article about Kendall Graveman. Kendall Graveman, a tremendous talent, excited about what he's doing. I think any day he could be pulled up with Toronto Blue Jays. So we're keeping our eyes on him. We'll have Kendall on at 7:15 on SportzBlitz Live. Stay tuned. More of the Lake Martin Sports Roundup right after this.
I'm really looking forward to this next interview. We get to discuss one of my favorite people to follow now in baseball, Kendall Graveman, somebody who's done so much in one season, elevated through 4 levels of the farm system of the Toronto Blue Jays. In 22 games started this season, he's 11-5 with a 1.87 ERA, and that's in 135 innings pitched. And so, again, I'm really looking forward to see that. And the one thing that I look at his stats, 1 home run in 135 innings. So that's just very, very impressive. But I want to welcome to the show Daniel Levitt, who is the writer for Baseball Hot Corner, who has been doing some very flattering articles, we'll say, in regards to Kendall. So we'll go ahead and open up the interview now. In the summer of 2013, weeks after being drafted, former Mississippi State Bulldog standout Kendall Graveman joined the single-A Lansing Lugnuts. In 10 starts, he posted fairly pedestrian numbers. If you fast forward a year, and Graveman has been anything but average. What has been the biggest factor in his rise through the Blue Jays farm system?
The biggest factor for Graveman's rise to the minor leagues this year has been comfort level and routine. Last year, he came straight from pitching in the College World Series for the Bulldogs to professional baseball in Lansing, all in about 3 weeks. As you can imagine, there's a lot to take in at such a young age. This year, he's more familiar with his surroundings. He's pitching every 5 days, which is essential to all starting pitchers. And he's had a full off season to build his arm and leg strength. And ultimately, he's a great pitcher. I mean, he pitched the Bulldogs all the way to the NCAA final, so there was no reason as to why he couldn't make a run as he's done.
And again, Kendall's clearly been one of the most productive young arms in the organization, yet none of the major prospect publications have given him the type of respect that his stat line suggests. Do you think that's part criticism or skepticism regarding Graveman's numbers, who I said 11-5 with a 1.87 ERA, or is it because he doesn't possess the same name recognition or star quality of a Sean Nolan or Daniel Norris?
It's more skepticism than criticism that Graveman has faced, and that won't stop as he comes up against the more national writers and reporters. So much is put into preseason prospect rankings, and if you're not ranked, then people are reluctant to pay attention to you based solely on the stats. Graveman has unfortunately fallen into that trap and flown under the radar a little bit. But I think that suits some guys, keeping out of the spotlight and just doing his thing. And at the moment, it seems to be working.
We're here with Daniel Levitt, who is a writer for Baseball Hot Corner, who has been doing a great job covering the minor leagues and all things Toronto Blue Jays. And so anybody who's followed Kendall's career knows that in college and in the minors, the one thing that appears to be consistent is that he's going to pitch to contact, and he induces a lot of ground balls. How do you see that translating in Toronto, playing half of his games in a dome?
Ground balls in the Rogers Center are an absolute key. When that thing gets up there, boy, it just flies, There's a reason why that ballpark is third in all of baseball for number of home runs this season. Inducing the ground ball there, therefore, is essential for any pitcher. Just look at the success that Mark Burley's had this year, partly because he works his infielders so often. And Graveman is by no means a power guy, so he's not going to strike out a lot of people, so he has to pitch to his defense whenever he can.
And although Kendall Graveman has been used exclusively as a starter in the minor leagues, he does have some experience as a relief pitcher in college. He could definitely use the Blue Jays could definitely use him in their bullpen. Where do you see the GM ultimately using him as he moves up the next level?
It's unclear at this stage where Anthopoulos sees Graveman fitting in with the big league club. One consistent trend this season, however, has been top prospects starting out in the pen and then making the transition over to the rotation. Look at Marcus Stroman and Aaron Sanchez. Stroman is clearly the best pitcher on the staff at the moment. So for Graveman, he'll be hard pushed to make the rotation out of spring training next year. So I think a spot start or a call from the pen looks likely.
And I have one more question for you. The Blue Jays rotation seems to be impenetrable at the moment, with names such as Drew Hutchison, as you alluded to, Aaron Sanchez having a lock on the back end of the rotation. What would the right-handed sinker baller have to do to ultimately reach the big leagues, and when can you see that happening?
But Graveman ultimately makes the big league club next year through an injury or via the pen. Despite there being questions surrounding Drew Hutchison and Aaron Sanchez, the rotation looks pretty set at the moment. And you've got to bear in mind that also Daniel Norris, the Blue Jays' #1 prospect, will most likely get the first shot ahead of Graveman. But that's not to say we won't see him at some point in 2015. Because there's such a rapid rise to Buffalo, though, I think a full season at the AAA level will do him a world of good, and prepare him for when the time comes to be caught up to the majors.
And that was Daniel Levitt of the Baseball Hot Corner. I want to thank you for joining Late Morning Sports Roundup. And again, though we're talking about Kendall Graveman for anybody who's just joined the show, and he's just done a wonderful job this season. And as you said, it's been such a quick rise that I think he's caught a lot of people off guard because, as Daniel alluded to, a lot of these prospect rankings come out so far in advance, and they're looking at years in advance of how a team plans on using certain players and the longevity. And the thing that I think Kendall has going for him is that he pitched at Mississippi State for 4 years, and he has more experience, and so that allows him to move through the system a little bit quicker than, say, some of your younger prospects who are coming out of high school and may not have the same innings and the stamina that someone else may have. Because the one thing that if you look at Kendall, watching him pitch, is I asked the question, he's going to induce contact. And so when you're doing that, a lot of times you're going to have a low pitch count, thus allowing you to pitch longer into games. And so that's definitely for a team like the Blue Jays, who give up a lot of runs playing in the AL East. They want to have someone who could go deep in the ball games and not have to use their bullpen as they tend to do on a nightly basis. But again, we want to thank Daniel for a great interview. And if you have an opportunity to check out the articles on Baseball Hot Corner, I know SportzBlitz social media has done a great job of promoting the articles as well, so check out that. But I know we're running up against the end of the show, so just a quick rundown of all we've talked about. We had a great
Sharp Attorney at Law Hotline. Good friend of ours, Kendall Graveman, former Benjamin Russell quarterback and pitcher, former Mississippi State Bulldog, and now AAA Buffalo Bison, member of that program with the Toronto Blue Jays. Kendall, thanks so much for taking some time to be on the program.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It's been a pleasure to be on the show a couple of times, and once again, glad to be with you guys.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Kendall. I just kidded with you just a little bit. I know you haven't had time to really unpack your bags because you're not anywhere long enough to unpack your bags before you got to move.
Right. Yeah. It's been an adventure this year. You know, starting in Lansing, Michigan, going from Lansing to Florida, going from Florida to New Hampshire for a couple of days, and going from New Hampshire to Buffalo, New York, and man, I've seen a lot of things this year and been a lot of places, and it's been really neat. But, yeah, especially in New Hampshire, I stayed, I think, 4 days. It really didn't unpack my bag. And went and got it out of my apartment, unpacked, and went and got on a plane to go to Buffalo.
Kendall, a meteoric rise to through the farm system for Toronto. You were in the system last year and pitched about 39 innings, and this year have gone from single A all the way up to triple A, like you said, and moving up pretty quickly. And you hear so many stories about, the minor leagues and the bus rides and the hotels. And again, it's real. The stories are real. I know that there's a lot of fame out there, but there's a lot of reality of being on your own and trying to figure out how you're going to do one thing to the next and how you're going to get a place to stay in a new city and meet new people, and all while you're trying to maintain your career and do the best you can on the field.
Yeah, it is. It's a unique experience. A lot of people see what goes on the television in the big league games and the glory that goes on that, but sometimes, especially moving from place to place, give you a couple nights in a hotel, and they expect you to find a place to live, and you don't know how long you're going to be there, and you got to make friends within the team. Maybe somebody that's moved out, you're taking their spot. You live where they lived, and in an apartment, or you never know what goes on. But especially, we've had 10 to 11-hour bus trips, and of course, the higher up you go, the little better it gets. We actually we fly on long trips here in AAA, but it's just an experience that it's tough to explain sometimes.
We got Kendall Graveman on the phone with us with the AAA Buffalo Bison, the Toronto Blue Jays organization here on the Dane Sharp Attorney at Law Hotline. Kendall, I just have to say you've had a tremendous career already in as far as college baseball is concerned, all the way up to where you are now in a very short amount of time with Mississippi State. You guys went all the way to the College World Series, were one game away from winning the whole thing. And I know you enjoyed your experience over in Starkville, but now in the minor leagues, just talk about how quick things can happen and how quick things change and how they've changed for you.
Right, and you go into a college program expecting to get better and learn a lot, like I did at Mississippi State, and then hoping to get drafted and being drafted as a junior, and then coming back as a senior and finishing up my senior year. And I think really that senior year prepared me for minor league baseball and to help me be promoted so quickly. I think that's one thing that I got better my senior year. I got a little more acclimated to how I pitch and who I am, and I think that really helped me. And you want to try to go through the minor leagues as quick as possible and make them promote you. And there's guys out there that if you make them promote you, they will. It's not like they want you to stay in A-ball for your career. They see positive things, they'll move you. But I really tip my hat to what I learned at Mississippi State as my success in the minor league so far.
Kendall, that was going to be my next question. What do you attribute? What have you done to get better? Because it's nothing for a guy to be in the minor leagues for 10 years before even thought about or for the organization to even think about moving him up. And, I mean, you're right here on the cusp, and I know you've jumped through the levels pretty quickly. And as I ask you off the phone, off the air, how have you heard any rumblings of being moved up to Toronto? And it's like you said, with injuries, with things changing, with trades and people moving around, it could literally be tomorrow. It could be 2 years from now.
Right, and the biggest thing I can do is, and I've seen is how consistent can you be? How consistent, if you're a hitter at the plate, can you be? And how consistent as a pitcher every day that you go out, perform and do well. And they look at consistency. And I really worked hard this offseason to gain velocity on my fastball, and I've done that. So that's helped me to be promoted. And also, I learned a cutter. I started throwing a cut fastball, and that's really seemed to keep hitters honest and keep them off balance a little bit at the plate. And, since those two things have happened, and just pitching with confidence, going out and expecting my stuff to be better than the hitters, I think that's really been one of the biggest things that has helped me also. So with a combination of things and just have pitch confidence, you can move up quickly.
Kendall, you arrive in the AAA organization with Buffalo. You hadn't been off the plane very long, and they put